Hello, I promise to be far more upbeat in all of the things I do today because I got the shit canceled out of me for being downer yet last week. So here I am. Welcome to Flesh and Pod. It's episode 79. My name is Logan. I'm your host, and I cannot keep this up oh, fuck. 14 seconds.
You're gonna have to beep that one.
Nope, sure. Go fuck yourself, Eeyore.
I'm just trying to balance us out. If you're gonna act like Jordan on his recreational binges, then I have to act like Flake doing an impression of me.
I can't do that. Elaine would frown upon it. But we can't keep doing this. Okay, welcome to episode 79 of Flesh and Pod. I am Logan. I am your host. With me, as always, is the progenitor of dour style, Darick Oswald. Charmer, what did you get up to in Flesh and Blood this week? Anything at all?
All right, so here's the good news. Are you ready? I said I wanted to try to make it to one Road to Nationals this season.
And you did.
I had everything going against me. However, this past weekend for locals, I still did not make it to any Road to Nationals because I just had way too much going on in the small 3-week window, and I'm very, very sad. So I cried a lot. I ate my feelings quite a bit.
Oh, how'd they taste?
Awful.
Oh,
they tasted like regret and sorrow.
You should put some gravy on that. Probably makes it better.
Yeah. But nonetheless, I have still been throwing some things together because I'm really looking forward to playing Blitz when it comes back again. So while I have a couple of constructed decks kind of raring to go, especially once we get the new set, and we'll talk more about obviously new spoilers and whatever later, but because of the new Bravo card, Bravo and Uzuri are my two favorite heroes. I've been kind of theory crafting with the new Bravo card on where that will fit into the list because I do think it will find a home at a minimum. But I'm really excited to play Uzuri in a post-Oldhim world, both in Classic Constructed, but also in Blitz specifically. And I have spent, the last week I was playing Blitz, Fatigue, Drone of Brutality, Contract, Uzuri, and it's kind of spicy. It's kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm waiting for the next time we get to play that format.
Yeah, I mean, Kasai exists, so I obviously enjoy Blitz a lot. So I totally get that. And I mean, I'm kind of sad that Oldhim is leaving Blitz because of that, but I'm not sad that Icelander's going away. That is totally acceptable for me. Or is gone, I guess. They're gone, right? Like they officially are off the board.
Yeah, they are gone. They're not going like in Classic Constructed. They are already gone.
They're gone.
And the beauty is because of the 11 equipment slots and the high defensive power just in your base like class cards, you can get away with still like having a game plan for Kano and then having a good game plan against your like standard aggressive decks, because you can literally, like, if you just want to say like, all right, I'm only bringing 2 daggers, I'm not going to go to the toolbox because who cares, like I'm in a fatigue game plan anyway, you can run AB5. And the fatigue version has a heck of a lot of blues. So the Kano matchup is actually pretty laughable. And then the other ones have been really good so far in my testing. It's not like, I don't think it's an overpowered or unbeatable deck, but it's showing a lot of promise for me right now.
Yeah, we'll have to battle a little bit of Uzuri into Kasai to see what's going on there, to see how that feels on both sides, because I think that'd be interesting. I did end up playing my one armory, only one armory this week. It was Blitz, and whenever there is a promo I want in Blitz, and in the format as Blitz, I just play Kasai, and so I now own a cold foil flail of agony. I wanted a flail, I obtained a flail. That goes back in the box, and it doesn't come out until I want something again. But it's that one was one where like, okay. Also seeing the Phantom Banshees in person, dear god, that actually
Yeah,
might be the best promo that art wise
the art is
that
gorgeous.
has ever been put out by LSS. Like, no hyperbole, that might be the gold standard. It is so good. So I did that. I did not make it the Saturday events. I did not make the Saturday RTN because it's pointless for me. Instead, I was helping out at a local Comic Con with Alpha Clash and playtesting that with people. Good time. I mean, we were busier than I thought. Local cons usually are kind of hit and miss, and it was a good. I mean, it was a good con. We ended up having quite a bit of foot traffic, which was nice. It was a good little dry run for how we're going to approach Origins, which is not even close to the same ballpark, but it's a good thing to understand where expectations lie and how we want to approach this. We'll have a lot more personnel at Origins, but and then also I got to just take the Sunday and enjoy what was there for the con. Picked up some early X-Men 15 and 16, which is parts 2 and 3 of Night in the Sentinels, first appearance of Master Mold. um, then picked up King Size 1, not Giant Size, King Size, which is first Lucifer, I believe. And then uh, also the first appearance of Rocket Raccoon. So picked up some good ones, some good gems to have around. Comic book wise, I'm a big comic book person. So is Charmer. I mean, we have a lot. We relate in a lot of areas. It just so
Yeah.
happens that our social demeanors are almost intensely inverted. So there is that part. But yeah, that was my week. Locally, the local RTN was won by Icelander. I don't know that there might have been one Briar in the field. I don't think there was, maybe none, but that wasn't the case everywhere. People were very focused on trying to get Briar those last points. And as of recording, we don't know. So it depends on who you believe. If every single report of a victorious Briar is accurate, she is at exactly 1,000 points on the dot. If any of those reports are inaccurate, it's 998. And we get Rosetta Thorne with Vincent. Oh boy, this is going to be a fun 24 hours. I think she's gone, but I'm really hoping that sometime in the next hour and change, we find out for sure. So I am not talking to future you, which you already know the outcome of this. I would, as much as I'd love to have Rosetta Thorne stick around for another Rune Blade, I'm prepared to do something else. On the bright side,
Yeah.
for Road to Nationals, every hero is on the board. There are no misses. The board is full of. Oh no, Charmer's sending me messages. This isn't good. Or no, somebody else is
No, it's
entirely.
not me.
There we go.
I promise it's not
You
me.
is not you. That is not you for once. The So Briar being 9 wins short is it looks like it's going to turn into a giant shit show. And I really hope we hit another Prism issue where Prism, apparently there was a misreport on one of the
Uh-huh.
heroes, and that was the hero that won. So Prism was at 998, should have been at 1K, and then won something. And oh my god, that was
Yeah, I
so
remember that.
tasty.
So it was somebody's, I want to say it was a ProQuest event, and it was reported that Starvo won, even though Prism actually won. And then the people like even reached out to have it corrected, and it wasn't like believed or taken care of. Like I do remember that.
Yeah, it was super fascinating because everybody reading that was like, "Oh no, what do you do? How do you fix this?" Um, it's it's insane to me. Um, it is crazy that can't be easily corrected, right? Like it's a fucking issue, and you know it. And but I guess when that issue removes a hero that people have been counting on being legal, maybe that's kind of cringy. I don't know, but I really hope that we like. I love that kind of weird drama. So this entire Schrodinger's Briar has been super fun for me, generically speaking. Um, but speaking of Briar, we did get a Briar specialization um revealed to us, which tells me two things. Well, it tells me one thing. The other thing is the card, which is really good. But the first thing that it tells me is that I think every adult hero is going to have a specialization in the set,
It's
because
looking that way.
they would have to kind of know that the odds are that Briar like would have LL'd out by now or close, right? Like,
Well, maybe, but these sets are in development pretty far down the path, so maybe not. Like, I
I
still stand by my
guess.
assessment that based on the art in the title of the Bravo card, that they still thought Starvo was supposed to be
Right.
around when this was
Yeah.
developed. So
Yeah. So this one is it's everything you want in life. It is a blue non-attack earth action with go again with 0 cost. Like, it is so Briar on
yeah,
every single
I
line of
mean,
this card, including Briar
absolutely
Specialization.
everything, right? Yeah. So the 0 cost, the blue pitch, but the real big thing to me was that this was an earth and not an elemental. So the fact that
Right.
like you could pitch this for Channel Mount Heroics or use this to fuse also immediately jumped out to me.
Yeah, this is just a straight up replacement in every way for Amulet of Earth outside of the Dromai matchup. That's the only time you'd want Amulet of Earth now instead of this. It's just a straight up better card in every way, shape, and form. You get your +1 now. I mean, granted, if you confuse, you get +1 for the entire turn off Amulet, but Amulet doesn't block. This one does give your next attack action card you play this turn +1. This has natural go again, so embodiments are a thing. The fun part of this one is its unity mechanic. The unity for this one is when this defends together with a card from hand, create an embodiment of Earth token under any number of heroes' control. So, Charmer, what happens if you block with 2 of these?
Well, then you make 2 embodiments
And
because you
so,
make 1 for each. And then the other great thing is if you've already got one because of your attack, right? So if you swing the previous turn, you get your 1 per turn embodiment. Then you use 2 of these to block like together, not even any other card, right? You're going to jump up to 3 embodiments. So 2 of these would block for 10.
block
And
10.
and that's just the 2 of them without any other card. So then you could throw in another 2 block, for example, just like another earth fuse card or whatever. You're blocking for 15. So you can cover a pulverize entirely and still have a card left in your hand.
And potentially arsenals that still have a turn.
Yeah, like that is insane. Now obviously it doesn't cover a dominated pulverize, but outside of that, like, even the important thing, this is what I was thinking of it from a Bravo player standpoint, is that even if you start thinking about like crippling crush, the embodiment of earth from this and then the previous turn, this becomes like a sink below, and then if you have another one in your arsenal or whatever, you can very easily hit that 8 threshold to turn off the crush.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty big deal, like even when it's dominated.
Yeah, that is certainly not nothing. Like, that's pretty good, not gonna lie. Like, I think so. I know that you have a major case of priapism when discussing Starstruck, and I get it. I think this is better in the context of the hero, but I don't know.
I think you're wrong because my card's at least playable in Classic Constructed.
Well, this might be 2. We don't know yet. But you are correct. Yours is playable in Classic Constructed. And if there's an adult Shiana, they both are. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself, but
I know. There's no need to rub it in, though. Like, Shiana, this is such a fun Shiana card, too, because you block with this and Starstruck, and you get your embodiment Earth, so you're blocking 3 from with this, and then Starstruck is also coming in and blocking for 3, so you're blocking 6 on the 2 cards, and then you're also getting the seismic surge, and then you can just crack back with something like one of the, like you said before, a blue and a red 4 to just hit them for 8, even though you blocked 6. that's cute. Or sorry, block 7. My apologies. Block 7.
Oof.
That's adorable. But the yeah, so I think that my rankings. I think my rankings really are Anthem of Spring and Starstruck are just 1A and 1B right now. They're both so good for what the hero wants to do. Alluring Inducement is then a close 2 and a close 3, I should say, and a very distant 4 is Chorus of Iron Song. I know that Mara is super up in arms about Chorus of Iron Song is great into Prism. It's like, yeah, who gives a shit? It's Prism. So that's my response to that. We don't care about the cops.
Okay, but tell me how you really feel.
Well, you know how I feel. It's a whatever. This is cute. This is really great, and it's funny as hell into Prism because the entire blow up literally every piece of ward you have on hit is pretty good. But that's that doesn't make up for it costing 1 and only pumping by 1, only pumping a Dawn Blade. We still don't know what a courage token is, so that's really what's holding this back. But
yeah,
as soon as we find that out, we'll be able to really appropriately. Well, I mean, we're not going to be any good at really addressing how good this card is anyway. I mean, I'm an idiot, but we'll be able to give a fuller view, I should say, of what this card is and does and how good it can be into any given meta. Like that's kind of where I am with this. But yeah, I really wish I kind of hate this because Jordan has infected me a little bit, like just as everybody I come across and spend a lot of time talking to does, including Charmer, who has made me I have said some things I fully regret, and not because they'd get me canceled, but because they should get me committed is more where I'm going with that. Horrible puns, shit worthless dad jokes, things that shouldn't be said out loud have been coming out of my mouth, and it's all due to talking to and spending time around Darick Oswald. So
yeah,
he will say he's improving me, and but it's like the Borg. They think they're improving things too by assimilating. So it's like that. It's not improvement. It is converting me to the hive mind of shitty jokes. That being said, Jordan kind of infected me with this until now, like this real disdain for spoiler season. It just is a generic thing. He hates it. And I'm not, I kind of grew to be a little irksome and tiresome of it. This set has erased that affliction. I now want more, and I want it now because these cards are gonna, like, if this is kind of the majestic spot is one specialization for every hero, that's crazy cool. Like I want to see all this shit because they're going to be fun, and I think it'll just be every adult hero. But that also means we get an adult Shiana, which I think we all expect anyway. But man, I want more. Like Darick, are you in the spot where this is already becoming your favorite spoiler season?
no, not yet.
Not yet.
And the reason for that is just because when Dynasty was coming out and we like got the assassin teaser stuff, like that really hit for me. Seeing the contract cards, seeing an entire new class kind of like teased out in a small set when that was not something that I think anyone was expecting. We were certainly not accustomed to that. We're used to getting heroes in supplemental sets, but not entirely new classes. So that for me was like the big hype ride, especially because that was also the first time we got like one of those cool teasers, right? We got like the Regicide thing where it showed the Emperor,
sure.
We got the Flash, and then there was like Arachne over the body. Like there was just so much really cool. I think it's easy for us to forget now because Dynasty, there's a lot of people who like to crack jokes about how it's like not powerful. I know Brendan Patrick says it might be like the worst set ever, and he'll make jokes about like oh, that's a dynasty card, no wonder I don't know what it does, sort of thing. But the reality is like that set had a lot of hype. I still think that there's a lot of really cool stuff in that set. When we got to see like the marvels for the emperor's,
the
room.
war room
Yeah.
or whatever, the trophy room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. So for me, like that's the one that I always think stands out. Now, I reserve the right to change my mind because as cool as that was, technically we actually haven't even started true spoiler season for Dusk Till Dawn yet. Like that's the thing that I actually keep coming back to is we've got a handful of spoilers. They're all really cool cards, but technically spoiler season hasn't even started yet.
No.
So when this kicks off in earnest, there is fully a chance for this to like win me over or exceed my expectations. But I think right now, if you had to say like, as of today, for me, Dynasty is the one that stood out to me as like the cool one because it did a bunch of stuff that we just had not seen before.
Sure. Yeah, this is, I mean, like, this is kind of just my wheelhouse. I really, as a like 80s horror fan, particularly loved Hellraiser. Vincent just checks those boxes. My first deck was Chain, checks those boxes, with a new Shadow Rune Blade. Shiana's is one of my favorite things to do in Blitz when I'm just memeing or having fun. Like it's the most actual fun I have playing the game is just screwing around with Shiana. And this with all the specializations and then Shiana being a major part of the story, like that all factors in. It's just there's so much of this that speaks to me. The only shit part is Prism because fuck the police, but it's a I don't mean that in earnest, really. It's just Prism's a cop, and I don't like Prism.
I just realized that we need to get Mara to make custom spectral shield tokens that are just like police lights.
The badges. Oh, like lights.
So like so hear me out. Like the badges would be pretty cool too because they're shields. But I like the idea of like you get ones that are red or blue or like a half and half foil. And it's literally just like the lights because they're, it's a light illusionist thing. So you got to showcase the lights.
Oh my God, you're the worst. But we could get them like holographic too. So that as you turn them, the light like kind of looks like it's doing the police light effect.
Yeah, because you don't even have to worry about it fitting. Like you could do lenticular ones.
You could do lenticular. Yep.
Yeah.
Shit. This kind of sounds like something we have to do now.
Yeah.
Keith, I need something done. Respond to this, after you listen to the episode, please. We have ideas. We need them done, and you indulge our idiocy. So, this is my shit. Like the Flail of Agony, the cold foil looks so good. It is just. I really hope this is just the best weapon to play with Vincent because I just want to play that thing. Like I want that weapon to be the thing that is the best thing to be doing because it looks so good. And everything is so flavorful about it. Like the sort of masochism of paying life to attack with the flail and then creating rune chants. Basically, are you drawing them in blood? Because that's what it feels like. We're drawing them in blood right now. Is all like
pretty much
cool shit. Like that's stuff I'm into. So I really hope like hell that they don't that they stick the landing on this. I'm just gonna look at Vincent's art one more time. Yep, that's it. That's the stuff. Okay. Yep. I'm all in. That's great. It's kind of a light news week, folks. This is why it's a little bit drawn out right now, but we do have some really good listener questions coming up in a second. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about the. Well, first of all, I'm drinking Sunshine Pilsner from Trogs. This is hashtag no free ads because this was given to me for free by our friend Tommy Dong, the intrepid host of Fresh and Buds, also cello virtuoso. He went ahead and gave me like a ton of beer. But this one is a pretty good standout for a Pilsner. And I just want to make sure that I got that across because, damn, this is a fine Pilsner to drink. Kind of is happy to have it. So getting that out of the way. We do have the Brawl weekend in Salt Lake City will be the next stop on the Realm Circuit, hosted with Kayfabe Cards. That's in August on the 4th through the 6th. You'll have a Blitz Super Armory on Friday night at Kayfabe Cards, Classic Constructed 5K on Saturday, followed by a Blitz Battle Hardened on Sunday. As per always, there will be a speakeasy after party on Saturday night. Still no idea where it is. I'm thinking maybe the Great Salt Lake will have dried out enough there that we can just hold it in the lake. That is distinctly possible. There's also a high probability that we can just go out to the Salt Flats and drive cars really fast because there's nothing there. I do have concerns about people getting lost, but you know what? I get a better sense of direction, I guess. But that's what am I? I mean, I got nothing else. Elaine will make it back. She's got a great sense of direction, especially like when somebody misses a turn and starts driving like a fucking maniac.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You do, and Jordan actually came off of his self-imposed Discord hiatus to make sure he cleared the air about that entire thing and agreed with Elaine. That should tell you enough of the veracity of what was happening, is that Jordan agreed with Elaine. So your driving is suspect.
That I don't know that I would trust him either.
Okay. Sell me on why I shouldn't trust Jordan in this instance.
Where to even begin? All right. His sense of judgment can't be that great because he has willingly done stuff with you and I. Like, not just hang out, degeneracy, but thought to themselves, you know what? I want to start a project and I want these people to be associated with me.
Strike one. I can't argue against it. So strike one.
Strike two. He came out of pseudo retirement, and the first show he decides to be a guest on is the Instant Speed podcast.
So I'm not going to give that a strike because Instant Speed has a decent amount of reach. And so if Jordan does want to get a bit out there for his newest project, I think that's actually a good place to go.
But I mean, he could have went on Pitch Perfect because they have really cool things going on. He could have went on Fresh and Buds because it's like one of the longest running ones. They're approaching like 100 episodes soon. He used to be on a podcast. He could have considered something like that. My point is this: is of all the ones that he decided to choose, he chose the one that is hosted by a gentleman that took a photo of him while he was sleeping, wearing a CPAP machine in what looks to be like a Renaissance painting position. And so again, he was like, you know, of all of the people that I want to just get myself out there with, that's the person that I'm choosing.
I think I'm going to have to take the position of separating the art from the artist here. Yes, Flake has questionable and duplicitous morals and ethics at times when it comes to acceptable uses and fair trade in art, especially when that art is of somebody sleeping and is specifically a photograph. But on the other hand, he does host a very popular show. It's not like Jordan was going to get on NPR. It's not like All Things Considered was beating down his door to talk about his actually very good blog that addresses a variety of topics within Flesh and Blood in general. The link will be in the show notes. The Pasa Papers. It's still that was actually a free ad. Because I don't know, I'd give Jordan free ads all day. Like, that's just a thing. But I don't think that's a strike, but I'm going to let you keep going if you want to.
Well, let me just follow that up with, as far as the Flake thing goes, that gentleman still hasn't seen RoboCop, still hasn't seen the Thing. Like, I even have more memes for the Thing that I need to send you, and then I'll send it to him. And you want to know why? Because he won't be able to enjoy them.
He won't get it. Yeah, he won't get it.
He'll be like, I think this is funny. I guess. I don't know.
That is a strike. Like,
yeah.
We're definitely at 2 and
Jordan chose that.
And one that could be called either way, depending on the umpire.
Strike number 3 against Jordan. He didn't bring Abby to Pittsburgh.
Abby didn't bring Abby to Pittsburgh.
No. Abby can do no wrong. So Abby did not bring Abby. Jordan didn't bring Abby.
agreed that Abby can do no wrong.
All right.
That is accepted and stipulated and entered into record. Although she did choose to do a show with both Jordan and I, and per
No,
your ruling,
no. Jordan and you chose to do a show with her, not the other way around.
I
She
mandated
agreed.
that Abby had to be involved.
Well, right, but what was happening is that whether you mandated or not, like she knew it was going to happen, and so if her choice is like let you two run amok or supervise you, she chose correctly to supervise you.
But amok.
Amok.
Yeah, right. It's that would, I mean, we did do a couple of shows that were on Abby-less, and those were
Yeah.
Yep, they're much like this show, actually. The Abby can do no wrong. It has been stipulated, accepted in record. Therefore, my God, you might actually be right. I hate that. I hate that for me. I hate that for humanity.
You want to know?
Quite honestly,
what's great? I hate that for us too.
Well, fuck.
Most of the time when I do end up being right, I promise you I did not actually want to be right. It's just that that's the worst case scenario, and I'm great at finding them.
Well, I mean, you know what? Talent is definitely a spectrum. There are different talents that people have, and if yours is finding the shittiest of shit that has ever been shat,
if there's one thing I know about myself, it's that I am in fact on the spectrum. So you're not wrong there.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of spectrums. I'm on
at
least 6
I'm
of
on
them. Yeah, I'm on at least 6 of them. So, okay. Moving on. We also, just making sure the information's out there. A lot of the folks that listen to the show have qualified for the Realm Invitational. For those that don't know, it is December 1st through 3rd in Columbus. There will be a 20K Invitational, which, if you're qualified for it, starts on Friday. And then if you scrub out on day one of that, you still have a 5K Brawl and a 2K Blitz on Sunday. So there's a lot of Keith's Ks that are being given away that weekend. And then next year, the Ks grow along with other things. There are also more unannounced shenanigans on the Realm Invitational weekend that are not announced as of yet. So keep watching this space as well as the Realm's Twitter account to make sure you're aware of them as they come up. I assure you they are exactly as absurd as you can imagine that they are going to be, because holy fuck are they absurd. Next thing is a correction corner. Now, we haven't done one of these in a while because normally we don't
we shouldn't be doing one this week. I'm going to go on record right now and say that this is not a correction. It's just a misunderstanding. But I'll let you start.
Darick, the card Starstruck,
yes,
does not stop bow activations.
You are correct. Bows is I just mispronounced. I meant to say bows. Okay. So if you hit somebody with a crush effect with Starstruck, they cannot do the bow before playing the cello. I know that Flake normally was doing the bow. I don't know why you would ever take a drink while I was talking, because that's just going to end poorly for you, my friend. But you can't take the bow before the cello. That was a very key part of that entire exchange.
You had the ability to go so many places with that. And you went directly to the cello. Yeah. And I also acknowledge that bowing is the correct thing to do prior to beginning your cello performance. Make sure there's enough rosin, but you could have also gone with no. I said bow as in a bow staff. Clearly, staffs will be weapons eventually in Flesh and Blood, and this would stop their activations because they're not going to cast for 4.
Why would I
it's a stick.
Why would I go from bowing before a cello performance to a bow staff when I could have went to what's the name of that thing you use to play a cello?
To play a cello?
Yeah. You know, with the rosin, you rosin up your
your bow. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like you play that with the fiddle, with per The Devil Came Down to Georgia, or a violin, a cello. There are so many things that
Yeah.
require a bow to play. Someday,
Someday.
someday we're gonna have to explain this entire reference.
Probably not.
And
I don't think that's good business.
it's bad
So
business. Oh,
all
fucking
right.
terrible business.
So here's the deal, gang. All right. As we know, Logan is a big fan of limoncello. Okay.
Huge fan.
And so we were having some fun with lemons, and then the limoncello came up. This was at Pittsburgh, right? There was a bit of a party. There was a lemon
Would
party,
you say
if
it
you
was a
will.
lemon party?
Oh, yeah. See, you knew where I was going.
We were having a lemon party and somebody put in a meat spin. Like, is that what we're fucking doing here? You sack of shit.
Explain
God
to me
damn it.
separate from the cello.
I am not explaining lemon party. No, hard pass.
All right. Well, anyway, I know we have some listener questions.
We do. I just need to recover for a hard second here. Or preferably a soft second. But okay.
This is what you get for adding me.
This is what we get for LSS not giving us enough news to fill our normal hour and a half of time frame with, and then we just start going off the rails because we don't know what else to do with ourselves. That's what this is. I'm checking the Briar page one more time right now. Nope, still 982. Okay, listener questions. The first one is from Vintax. If you could make a hero and a specialization, what would you make, and what/how would you balance it? Darick, I know that you fancy yourself something of a game designer. What is your take here?
So we talked about this a bit at one of the events recently. I want to say it was when we were in Baltimore, but it's also possible I had mentioned it in Pittsburgh. Not on the podcast, obviously. I think it was just a conversation with you and I, but the one thing that I keep coming back to, just because I think that it would be hilarious thematically, is that I want a centaur hero. So the only line of text, right, is just that because you're a centaur, you can wear a second pair of legs. And like, so that's the balancing. So you get to wear like snapdragons and something else. And then your specialization, you're probably going to have something that's like, you know, magic horseshoes or whatever for playing into the centaur theme. But I want to explore what it's like when you start kind of playing with, okay, you know, the game is designed around one set of boots. What happens if you do two? The reason I think that something like centaur works, you know, the best, as opposed to like a Goro four-armed man situation, is that the boots are, in my opinion, like the tamest of the bunch.
Sure, they are.
But they also still have like interesting interactions, right? So if you're going to like test the waters with going, you know, outside of the current restrictions for equipment, I think that one makes the most sense. And yeah, I think that could be a lot of fun. I also just feel like we have seen centaurs in art already, so you could kind of re-reference some of that. So Humble, for example, looks like that's a centaur on it. So it's in universe. It's not like out of left field with that. I think that has a lot of potential. The other one that I toy around with, if you want to go a bit heavier, and so this one is, I think, much harder to balance. I think this would take a lot of sessions and probably some redesigns, but just like as a out of the gate, like ground floor, I think a unique or a cool or a fun idea would be a druid, and you get 5 intellect as the druid, but because you are like Captain Nature, you don't get to wear any equipment, and that also means no arsenal. So it's you get 5 int, right, but no equipment, no weapons. So like in the druid class, you would have stuff to help make up for the fact that you don't have a weapon, but the idea is like literally you're just a dude walking around, and like you make friends. So there's probably some ally cards, like a summon wolf thing, you know, very classic, whatever. But I just really like the idea of the centaur is what happens if you have, more equipment, and then what if you go in the other direction, right? What happens when you just like don't have equipment at all, and how does that change things for you? So those have been the things that I have like kicked around a little bit. But
Yeah, mine was like, so one of the things I discussed, I believe it was a question that was either asked on Flake's show or Tommy's show, one of the two, long ago, was how would you balance a 5 intellect hero? And that one kind of caught me because I'm like, okay, how would I do this? Like, I would probably have it be. I'm like, okay, so you would need something sort of sciency. So my thought was something like in an arbalist, so a somebody that has gun and shoot, and it would be something along the lines of you no arsenal ever, like that is step one.
yeah,
And then the other portion of the balancing around the 5 intellect would be at the end of your turn, you discard your hand. So basically, if you get red in the ledger, you're ditching 4 cards or ditching 3 cards out of your hand. You're just discarding them. That doesn't. It kind of eliminates, like, it makes an inertia token completely irrelevant, which I think is fine. But those didn't exist when I was thinking through this.
right,
But I was
right,
thinking of something where it would make sense class wise to have 5 intellect, and then but then also um discarding your hand, so that the thought is like throwing everything you have at them every turn, right? Like,
right.
if you have to use your cards for blocking, you're just probably going to block and then discard a card. So that's not great in any way, shape, or form. The other one was thinking through what would you do, what would have to be true of a character that started with higher than 40 health. So my thought there was like a dwarven berserker type, where they can't wear armor at all, and they start at 55 health or whatever, and they then just all their cards are just above rate smashy with no block. So and basically you have the ability, like one of the abilities would have to be something along the lines of a way to you can attack with both weapons, but it costs you life. You can Titan's Fist was the first thing I thought of from WoW. Like, you can hold two-handed weapons,
Yeah,
and your first weapon attack, you can pay 2 life for your or 2 health for your first weapon attack to have go again. Something along those lines. But it was like, that's really hard to balance too. Um, and so I was like, well, there's a reason that they haven't really experimented in those realms yet with 5 intellect and higher health
yeah.
pools, because that is
'Cause
hard balancing.
yeah, it's going to take time, and that's why I prefaced before I mentioned the druid one that like it would take a lot of iterations to get right. But I did like the idea of no equipment, and that included like weapons. And so then when I was trying to think of like what do you do to balance that, right? The reason that I settled on like, okay, 5 int, but no arsenal. Obviously, the 5 int and the arsenal thing is too much. You don't ever want to give somebody a 6 card hand. But the
Mm-hmm.
fifth card was like me going, well, how do you make up for never having a weapon as an option? You know what I mean?
Right.
So like
Yeah.
the 5th card is like, okay, well, even if it's just, like your 0 for 3, class card or whatever, then like that is your weapon. But I just liked thematically that idea of, exploring the extremes of what happens if you have more equipment versus what happens if you have no equipment, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I was thinking for like a specialization on like the berserker, you would do attack reaction that would just be simply 0. If this weapon were to hit this turn, if this weapon hits this turn, it deals X damage, where it deals X additional damage, where X the amount of damage being dealt. Right. So
Mhm.
if you're talasharing for 4, no blocks, you then are talasharing for 8, and it destroys the weapon. That was the So you're basically just shoving it and breaking it off.
I think it'd be
Um,
really cool, like playing into that idea. Um, like if you had like a berserker or a barbarian or whatever, like trying to set up something where you play it, it's a card that still makes you attack with your weapon, right? But in a whirlwind fashion, like the idea of
sure.
like, you know you pay a bunch into like this non-attack action, but then the text on the non-attack action for whirlwind might say something like, attack with your weapon, then attack with it again +1, and then attack with it again +2, and like that's all it does. But like just that idea of like, all right, like I'm just gonna swing my
Blade
weapon
Storm.
a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think that could be really cool too.
Yeah, I think that because of the card having to be, the card would have to have a pitch value that isn't 0 or isn't 1 at that point,
Yeah.
in order to be probably worthwhile. So you're going to run into a few different balance issues that way too. But everything we're talking about, like we're talking about doing things that are out of left field, that are difficult to balance. It's not as simple as, oh, we'll make a different type of warrior, right? We're trying to do things that aren't done currently in Flesh and Blood and make it a little bit different. But the hardest part of all of this, and the hardest part about card games in general, is balance, is making things balanced. And it took them, I shouldn't even say took them, they have yet to balance a rune blade out of the box. I'm dead serious. Like, chain, fair and balanced. Fox News, let me tell you.
I was gonna say I don't think that's true. I think Viserai out of the box, hear me out, out of the box, Viserai was balanced. He wasn't really
Blood Chief Skeleton didn't exist yet.
Right, wasn't an issue till Skeleton came up. Out of the box, I think Viserai was fine.
Yes and no.
That's it. That's the one time
That's
in history.
the one time.
It was a brief window right when Arcane Rising released, before Crucible. That's it.
Yeah, like that's a pretty narrow gap. Like Bloodsheath Viserai is a scourge. It's a lot, and when put in the hands of a capable pilot, is absolutely one of the most difficult decks to play against in Flesh and Blood, full stop. Because they're sitting there drawing circles, and you need to try to kill them before they pop off, and all their shit is blocking for 3, and they just keep doing it.
This is where I get to say something totally, like, just to brag, right? I can be like, well, I've never lost to combo Viserai. However, all 3, I think of my no, I think it might have been 4 total, because there was one at like an RTN or something. But basically, every time I've ever played against Bloodsheath Viserai, I was on Starvo. So like,
yeah, that doesn't count.
That doesn't count, right?
Nope. Nope. You got the whole thing of, this is an Oakenold, I'm sorry about your hand. Yep. And here's a Winter's Wail for your trouble. It's dumb as shit. So no, that one doesn't count.
All I have to do is stay above 30 health all game.
Right.
Easy.
Yeah, easy mode. There were some of that, like, it was really weird because combo Viserai was very simple for Starvo to deal with in most cases, because what you're presenting is more than they can deal with. But aggro Viserai, like, that one made you sit up and think a minute, because you would have to stare at what their potential damage was. It wasn't on board.
Right.
And think, okay, they could still eat an Oakenold and a Winter's Wail, keep a 2-card hand, and deal me like 18 back. Like, that's...
Yeah, and if you didn't have your disruption, the other frightening bit was always like, all right, if that's Mordred Tide in the arsenal, and then you start doing the math, because like Mordred Tide was always the danger card in that matchup, and you're like, that's a problem.
Movrian Skies and Mordred Tide were your big pains in the ass.
Thankfully, you had... Starvo is so dumb. You had the Great Equalizer, which was like, okay, well, if you have an off turn and then they just crack you for like 20, you're like, okay, cool. Well, then I Awakening, and then I dominate, Pulverize, and swing Withering Wail. Enjoy your, 18 back, plus I Time Walk because you have no turn. Like,
I mean, if you want to play the bad version of Starvo, I guess.
Listen,
playing Awakening is shit. It was dog shit.
I disagree.
You're allowed to.
I won so many mirrors on the back of Awakening because people don't know how to pilot into it. But
yeah, that's the thing. If you knew how to pilot into it, it didn't matter.
Right.
And that was the first card that we cut out of Starvo. Like, dead serious. Dagon had it in his list. I didn't. I beat the ever-loving shit out of him. He took the card. He's like, this is fucking trash, and threw it across the room. So it never made it back in the deck after that. We're going to go to this next question, because otherwise we're going to go into an Awakening conversation for the next 20 minutes, and it's just not good content at that point in time, because it's a hero that is no longer relevant.
You have awakened something in me, sir.
No, that was Starstruck. That wasn't me.
Oh.
Next one's from Philip P. What do you think it would take to finally push Fab more into the mainstream? He gives an example here. Although the game has picked up considerable steam, it is not recognized as an official category on many streaming platforms. I have even encountered major MTG based LGS in my area that looked at me confused, like I grew a third head, bringing the game up. Somehow they had never heard of it. Okay.
There's a lot to this
There's a
question.
lot. There's a lot. The one thing I think is very interesting about Flesh and Blood is how it's hard to find the right term, but organic the growth of the game has been. They're not trying to force it. They're not trying to take out ads in Vogue or Glamour or whatever thing people read anymore. I don't know. I don't listen to, I don't know. But they don't do that. They don't take out ads. I killed Charmer. He's actually done for. I've eliminated Charmer from the conversation.
Flesh and Blood can't do what Magic did. Magic got popular because of those well-known historic ads they took out in Vogue and Glamour. But Flesh
and Blood took out ads on Hot Pockets, for fuck's sake. I mean, come on.
Even Hot Pockets isn't Vogue or Glamour.
No, they're Hot Pockets. But look, they are a far more organic push into the mainstream. They are banking on how good the game is to grow the game, and I think that's legit. I think that actually is why that they made it through COVID the way they did and managed to pick up steam, because they were banking on something that wasn't jamming a bunch of money into generating clicks and views from bots that aren't going to buy your product, right? They supported content creators, most content creators, and they leaned on the real evangelists that grew from people playing the game to spread the word and grow. And I think early on that was fantastic. I do think now it would probably behoove them to break out of that a little bit and talk to Twitch, talk to YouTube about getting a category that is specific to Fab, because we're there. There is the lack of digital client that I think also impacts that portion of it. Official digital client. And obviously that is not part of their mission statement to have one. And I think that's great. I do believe the olive branch of acknowledging that Talishar exists and letting it exist is a good thing for the game as a whole, despite my misgivings of hive mind content. That stuff hasn't happened. That's why I'm completely okay with it. But I don't know that we want, outside of taking those little bit of steps to get it more recognized just officially by asking the question, I don't know that I want to see a bigger push outside of developing the IP in general, which would be, your television shows, your graphic novels potentially, or novels, or even action figure lines, like things like that. But I don't think that gunning for mainstream approval is the thing that you want to be doing here with your what amounts to a grassroots grown organically developed game.
Yeah, so all right, there's
would have been better if I said Playboy.
No, yeah,
Penthouse, Hustler. I mean, what?
Yeah, actually, I think that's at least
better than Glamour or Vogue.
The same potential demographic, like
Red Book, Reader's Digest.
TV Guide would have been a better choice than
There's
Vogue
no such thing as TV Guide anymore.
I know, that's the point.
Right, fine.
Anyway, I think there's three pieces to this question. So step one, push Fab into the mainstream. My definition of mainstream is probably different than yours, but I don't think that even Magic the Gathering is in true mainstream. Like, there's still plenty of people that you can just say like, hey, you ever heard of Magic? And they're going to say no, right? Gaming, yeah, absolutely. Everybody knows what Magic is, but true mainstream, no. It would take something to the effect of like what Marvel movies have done, and now people know what Marvel comics are that never used to know before. Now, if you're even just talking like gaming mainstream, it just needs time to grow. Like one of the reasons that Magic is as known as it is because it's been in the business for decades, right? Like that's a long time to cultivate a not just a player base, but then also this kind of like endemic ability to just kind of like be known throughout the industry. So Flesh and Blood just needs time. I think that it's doing everything right. Like Logan said, it's just kind of growing organically. And I think that is just what it needs to do. It just needs time to proliferate, right? As far as the other parts of this question, right? So step 2 is the YouTube, the Twitch. So like I can tell you right now, I know for a fact actually, LSS has talked to both YouTube and Twitch. And not only LSS, but even other people I know. So like I'm a Twitch partner, other, rather large Twitch partners play Flesh and Blood. And I know that they've reached out to like partner reps and whatever, but at the end of the day, as Logan said, there is no digital client. So like the big difference between Flesh and Blood and something like Magic is Magic had MTGO. They now have Arena. Pokemon has a digital client. So Pokemon has got its own section on Twitch. Yu-Gi-Oh is now on Twitch, but Yu-Gi-Oh now has a client as well. Flesh and Blood doesn't have a client. So Twitch has just outright said, like, we don't do a category for just like any old tabletop thing. Like there has to be a known digital component, right? So that's why there's a ton of board games. Like you can't go on there and find like Monopoly or whatever either unless it's like the digital version, right? So it's not even just like it's a card game thing or a Flesh and Blood thing. It's just that Twitch is, for the most part, it's targeting certain things. Now, obviously Twitch doesn't have like the hard and fast rule because they allow for the like just chatting streams, and there's other things. But when it comes to this, and when folks have reached out, the answer has just been that like there's no video game, there's no digital client, so it doesn't get its own thing. And that's kind of a bummer because that also means that that's not likely going to change anytime soon. Because of Flesh and Blood's commitment to playing in the Flesh and Blood, but that's why that's not there. It's not because the game's not mainstream enough. It's just because it's committing itself to a certain experience, and that isn't part of the experience. Now, the last part, or the third part of this, as far as like the LGS looking at you, like you grew a third head or whatever. First of all, why do you have a second head? Right? Because you said grew a third head. All right. Well,
right. Because if he's identifying, if he's like, male identifying, then
sure, but
third head.
But why was it visible then?
Assumed, implied. You know what? I stopped myself before I said that. I am so proud of myself right now.
Anyway, the other part of this is that, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way if this is like your favorite store or people there, but this sounds like it's a poorly run game store. Maybe they're just like more into comics and they don't know games as much. Maybe they just like carry their favorite games, but to not understand what's going on in the market. Like I don't own a game store. I knew about Flesh and Blood when it launched, right? Like I don't like know everything there is to know about every game launching, but I at least know of like the stuff that's up and coming. Like I knew about Grand Archive before it launched. I know about Alpha Clash that has yet to launch, but that's launching later. Like so on and so forth. Like if you're at all in the space, like to just not have ever heard of it is a bit much. Now, if they said like, yeah, we just don't carry it because we didn't have enough interest or whatever, that'd be one thing. But the fact that they like looked at you like you were making something up or whatever, that's pretty rough. Like even the people who don't like Flesh and Blood know of Flesh and Blood. Now, again, it would have been another thing if they would have said to you like, oh no, I heard it's a scam, right? Now, of course, we know that's not the case, but at least, again, they've heard of it, right? So that I don't know, that just stands out to me as like a potential red flag there.
I do want to circle back really quick to one thing that's just really brief. I want to make sure we're not conflating two terms. I think that we need to differentiate between what we're looking at as mainstream and what we're looking at as cultural zeitgeist, because they are two different things in this context, in my opinion. The mainstream in this case is mainstream gaming, not actual mainstream. So, like, culturally mainstream, Marvel was culturally mainstream prior to Marvel movies. Marvel movies shoved Marvel into the cultural zeitgeist. Like, I think that is a distinction that is important. So when I'm talking about the mainstream, I'm talking about the cultural mainstream within gaming and all types of gaming versus the cultural zeitgeist of everybody and their mother and their and you could dig up people and they would still have heard of it. Like I think that those are two things that have a
I don't
distinction
know,
that's
man. That
important.
whenever the only time that I'm going to be honest, the only time I ever hear anybody say the words mainstream together is when it's some crackpot complaining about the mainstream media.
Let's not.
And let me just say that anytime that they reference that, it's always something that like is also in the cultural zeitgeist, right? So whether or not like we are using it, I was trying to use it the way I always hear it used, because
Okay.
again, like that's anyway.
So, Philip, if you could tell us whether or not Charmer or I or myself were the correct interpretations, that'd be great because we would definitely like to hold it over the other one.
Oh
That would
no,
be
I'm
wonderful.
sure that his intention
I'm
or
fucking
her
with you. Can you never figure out when I'm
could,
fucking with you?
could be mainstream gaming. But even in that case, like I don't think that anything you can do other than just like time is going to
No, I
push it.
agree. Yeah, I agree.
Like,
And
do you know how many people I know who like play games actively have talked to me about the show Arcane and didn't realize it was based on League of Legends, which is like the biggest game in esports? You know what I mean? Like mainstream, even in the gaming space, is very hard to get. Like
true.
that's my point.
Yeah. No, okay. I'm with you there. We're going to move on to the third question of the four. Uh, with the Living Legend format going to consist currently of Guardians, at least one Runeblade, probably two, and Prism, you can just say cops. Do you think it will be diverse enough for people to enjoy the format? If not, what class or hero would you like to see join the format? Your turn for the first crack at this.
I think it will be diverse enough because there's enough for the traditional triangle, right? So usually there's this kind of checks and balances that occurs in most card games where you have three decks and they kind of police each other. So Prism polices the Guardians police the Rune Blades will feast on Prism, right? Like that's the way I expect that format to go. Roughly, I know I'm being very, very reductive here, but this is like the quick hitter. So I do think it will be diverse enough. That said, if I wanted to see it diversify further, I think it's mostly missing a wizard, or giving Viscerai Blood Sheath back when he hits Living Legend, because I think what you're really missing is like a combo deck to kind of be that fourth pillar there and just take all of them out of their comfort zone so that it's not just that triangle that I talked about. So any sort of combo deck, I think, believe it or not, Kano would be the best for the format, though it's more likely Icelander will hit Living Legend before Kano. So she will likely end up being that kind of like fourth piece to the puzzle. But I think that's ultimately what it's missing to kind of round everything out as best it can.
Yeah, I'm a yes on diversity, diverse enough. I do have concerns with. I think the only real deck in there that you really would build multiple ways is just Oldhim, because you can go on the extremes with what he does, but like his bottom extreme is still just kind of worse Starvo. His high extreme, where he is a force, just a force to be reckoned with as a fatigue deck, is probably where Oldham's lane is in this format. Whereas Starvo is your more disruptive, punch you in the face Guardian in this particular meta. I don't know that there's another way to build Briar that would matter. I mean, you just want foot on the gas Briar. Chain is just Chain. It's one of the most consistent decks
Yeah.
that's ever existed. It's just Chain. And Prism is, yes, the ultimate police on any format. It does its thing. Its actual build is built two ways already. So it can kind of pivot game plans on itself and cause some very uncomfortable turns both ways, and without having to shift, without having to like be built a certain way to do it. I think it's plenty diverse. If I was going to add something, it would probably be either, I think a combo deck makes the most sense. You are correct. Something to shift the comfort zones of these decks. The other things I would think of is like a Brute, where again it's sort of a combo deck, but the combo is your face gets punched hard. But we're nowhere close to that. Last question from Big Lou. I am curious what all you put into your bag to head out to events. What accessories, trade binders, and other personal effects do you pack? Does it differ from going to your local armory nights, callings, battle hardens, ProQuest, etc.? So for mine, it's always the things that are just evergreen is typically a CC deck. And this is for traveling armory nights. I usually only bring what I need for that armory. It's just, there's no real reason. I'm not a big trade person either, unless somebody contacts me directly and says, hey, do you have this card? Right? At which point I'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll bring my in whatever. Or somebody says, hey, can you bring your trade binder? That I will 100% do. But I normally do not carry it with me. But it's always a pen and paper, or a pad of paper, a pen, dice, counters, CC deck, blitz deck, and a box for drafting, and a playmat, and that's it. That is my entire bag. Charmer's got his bag.
I got my bag right here. So here's the thing. This is my standard bag that I take with me even to local armories, and I also take it to events. There are some things that I add when I go to larger events, like any of the Realm events or Pro Tour events, etc. But we're going to start with the basics. So at least one playmat. You can't really see here because the mic's in the way, but this is got a green tint because this is the Flesh and Pod playmat. Be envious. When I go to larger events, this other side is for a water bottle. I don't usually take one to my locals just because, you know, they have stuff or whatever, but I want to take a reusable water bottle when I go to other events. Then I always make sure that I've got something for writing life totals. And then I've got my cool pouch filled with all of my awesome custom fab metal token stuff. So even when I'm not playing Dromai, I still have everything in here, including the cool dragon tokens, the armor things, etc. They're just amazing. And then as far as like other stuff,
Hashtag no free ads.
Hashtag no free ads. As far as other stuff goes, I have a trade binder that is small. This is usually filled with just my overflow of Majestics. I say it's a trade binder, and I do make trades, but the reality is this is just literally it's all of my extras. So I bring it in case somebody needs something, and then if like somebody wants to trade or whatever, I do it. But this is really just like, hey, somebody might need something, so I bring it. The other nice thing about taking this is that if I do pick stuff up for myself and I don't want it to get like jacked up, but I don't have room for it, I just throw everything in the back of that, and that's like my note to myself to just take care of it when I get home. And then I usually have a deck. I also, lately anyway, have been carrying this, not related to Flesh and Blood, but this is 2 Alpha Clash decks for teaching people the game. Just so I have it on me all the time. And then the other thing besides like whatever deck I'm taking for my event, and this is why I wanted to get my bag, because I've done this now and I can't imagine my life without it. So I have this separate small case that I keep in my bag at all times. And this is what I call my limited case. So what I have in here is this set up like this. So there are dice, and then I've got one box that is filled with just extra sleeves right now because Chain is living legend. I'm using his old sleeves. And then the other thing is normally empty. And the reason I do this is because whenever I'm drafting or I'm playing sealed, I take the sleeves from here, I build my deck, and then the deck that I build goes into my empty box. But this is everything I need to play limited, all in this like little mini thing. And so this is nice because if I do go to a larger event and I want to play limited or whatever, I can also set my bag like back at the hotel or leave it, you know, with like Keith or whatever if they're at the show, and then I can just carry this and I've got a lot less to worry about and still have everything I need for playing limited. So this is what I carry to every event I go to, even locals. Things that I take for larger events are, as Logan said, any cards that people have asked for. So if, you know, somebody wants me to bring something specific, I'll bring that. I usually bring some level of cash with me just because I know that there's going to be, you know, dinner and good times and whatever. And then I bring, you know, a lot of lotion for obvious reasons. Because you don't want to get ashy at the table.
You don't want to get ashy at the table. Yeah, that's it. That's it. You don't want to rosin up your bow.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good. I'm ready to be done here. So we're gonna do some Patreon.
You ready for those
shout-outs.
plugs?
I am ready for those plugs. I love some plugs. Again, pulled up ahead of time.
Yeah.
I'm getting good at this.
These plugs at the tail end of the show.
Like to plug at the tail. Yeah, the tail plugs. So our associate producers are Andy, Kenny, and May. Thank you very much for your support. Our executive producers on up are C-Dubs, Josh, Lance, Good Thrust. Plug. Yeah. Matt 2Ts, Popo Mike, Rich, Alex, Ed, Philip, Taylor, and Trevor. If you're interested in, he's got the charcuterie fan out.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anna Shreve, for gifting us those.
Made her day when we shouted her out, so I figured I would show that it's a real thing here. Yeah. And
mine's in my bag. I forgot to mention in the bag portion of the show that I keep that in my bag now. So I can fan Jordan with it.
Yeah, I just dug it out for the exact same reason.
It's always there now. Thank you very much for your support to all our patrons. If you're interested in becoming a patron of Flesh and Pod, you can go to patreon.com/Flesh and Pod. Link is in the show notes. There's some number of fucking tiers. I don't know. But pick whatever you feel is relevant to you. And if you choose to support us or don't, we're going to keep making the show regardless.
I mean, if you listen to the show, there's going to be lots of tears.
Usually mine. Yeah, there sure are. Notably that tears and tears are spelt the same way. Tears, tears, tight. You know what? There's a lot of letters here. But if you want to email the show, you can. We have an email address. It is fleshandpod@gmail.com. I'm usually the one that is policing that mailbox, so please be gentle. We are the show. You can find it basically anywhere that you can find podcasts, as well as youtube.com/fleshandpod, I believe, but that might be wrong. Links in the show notes regardless. If you want to join in the conversation and all of our idiocy, you also can join the Flesh and Pod Discord. That link is also in the show notes. We are currently talking a lot in the film section more than anything. But I have the pickle channel muted, so I don't know what goes on in there. I don't know that I care.
There's been a riveting conversation about monster pickles. Now, before you ask, I don't mean like Godzilla-sized pickles. I mean pickles like pickled in Monster energy drink.
What the fuck?
This is why you shouldn't have it muted, and this is why you listener join
this
our
is bullshit.
Discord.
This is not real. Hold on,
it's real.
This is real time, folks. I can't fucking believe this shit.
I can't. Scroll up and Dagan actually posted the picture.
Okay, the gin one's great, but this. If Elaine saying this might be where I draw the line,
yeah,
and you say that's where you draw the line. Popo Mike is in there with gin and Monster energy pickle juice, and I'm.
This is why you should join the Discord, because we have riveting conversations, including about pickles.
Yeah, apparently. So yes, yeah, that's a thing. You know, Charmer, where can they find you?
In the Pickle Posse in our Discord,
Fuck.
but also on Twitter, I'm at that Charmer. That's Charm3R. On YouTube and Twitch, I'm just Charmer. And then on pretty much every other social media, I'm that Charmer. And then, you should pay attention because there's more projects spinning up all the time. I think we're going to have an Alpha Clash thing soon. So we'll point you in that direction. Myself and Flake are going to be doing something for Star Wars Unlimited at some point, so you'll be able to find me wherever you want, really.
Yeah, Wampa Radio for the Star Wars
I'm
show. I
ready.
like that one. That's a good name. The hashtag no free ads. You probably, well, you don't owe me shit. I guess that's fine. But the yeah, so you can also find me in the Discord. Links in the show notes. Um, you can find me on Twitter at Logan Peterson. My name is my username everywhere is just Logan Peterson. So if you want to find me somewhere, I don't think I'm on feetfinder.com, but I'm not about to look. So if you find me there, just let me know. The um also just make sure that you are keeping an eye out, and I'll make sure that the link is in the show notes at all times, but make sure you're reading the possum papers as they come out. Jordan has put a lot of work into this content and into this blog, and it is well worth the read every time. He is an insanely talented writer, and I know he hates when I say that because he doesn't like to believe it about himself, but it's just fucking true, so I'm going to keep saying it. But it is well worth reading. Please subscribe to the newsletter. Comes out weekly. Again, just a great read. I am always thrilled whenever I see it come across my email. So if you want to basically get more Jordan back into your life, this is the best way to do it. Also, big shout out to our pseudo sister podcast, or show over at Three Floating. They had Josh Lee Kwai from Game Nights on in last
Mm-hmm.
episode, which is a pretty big deal for the Fab community in general. That's a very big name in the card gaming community to come on and play Flesh and Blood with those kids. And I call them kids. I keep fucking calling them kids. They're actually adults.
They are
Um,
they are very adult, but they will forever be kids to us because we are their adopted
Old,
fathers.
yes. Well, and I am old enough to be their father, so that's totally reasonable. But yeah, please go over there, give it a watch, support them. They're doing great work, and it's utterly hilarious. Like they, as Sin put it, their edits go hard, which is very true. Their edits go very hard, and they do put a lot of effort and love into the show, and are doing a great job, and they're just crushing it. So please go over and support them as well. Um, I don't think I got anything else. How about you? Hopefully we know the Briar situation soon. I'm sure that
She
we'll have a
gone.
conversation. She gone?
I'm just gonna call it.
You're calling gone.
Yep.
I'm saying that she hit 1,000 exactly just for the hump. That everybody did God's work and got her there. So all right. Well, that's our show for this week, folks. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for being you. And we will just talk to you all next week. Bye.